All right, welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Edge. This is an RPG and gaming news podcast. My name is Het.
And I'm Eric.
And as you can tell, today we are audio only. We try to be video most of the time, but occasionally we're going to be audio, so should be a good podcast regardless because we have a lot of very, very good topics to talk about today. So first things first, we got new Nintendo Switch hardware is coming in 2019, so we're going to speculate what that might mean, whether it's a big thing or in a small way. We also have a recent Harry Potter RPG leak. Sounds pretty cool, so we want to talk about that. And then also, we have the author of the Witcher series, the actual book series, I should say. He's currently has a lawsuit filed against the developer of the video game series. So that's kind of interesting as well. And then we also have Monolith, developer of the Xenoblade series. They're currently working on a new RPG project. We don't know what it is, but we're going to speculate what it could be or what it might be. And then finally, we have one of our listeners, Dude McGuy, who wants us to speculate or talk about games that where we have changed our opinion on them, meaning maybe we didn't like them initially, but over a period of years, we went back and played it, and our feelings on the game has changed, essentially. And then we have some comments as well that hopefully we'll have time to get to. But other than that, Eric, have you been playing anything this week?
It's mostly been Dragon Quest 11. I've been doing a lot of the post-game stuff, and it's a lot of fun. I've been having a good time getting the ultimate weapons and armor for people, getting +3 on them. And, I mean, the game is just so jam-packed full of content. It feels like never ending, but like in a really good way.
Yeah, for sure.
But I also did get Mega Man 11 last week.
How's that? I've heard some good things.
It is. It's a good game. It's not like the most like spectacular Mega Man ever, but it's like a more than serviceable one. I mean, it does it does everything you expect from a Mega Man. There's 8 robot masters. You gotta defeat them all. Then after that, you go to Wily's castle and go through a gauntlet of levels and defeat him at the end of it. I will say it's very well done. I have some minor grievances with it, but I mean, if you're a Mega Man fan or a platforming fan in general, it's definitely worth its money. I would definitely, and you can get it on Switch, you can get it on PS4. I think it's pretty much on every console across the board. If my memory serves me right. It's $30 last I recall.
Okay, that's not bad. That's a little bit more money than I expected, but that's not outrageous either. So,
yeah,
and it's a well established title too. So I guess I should, it's worth the extra buck. So
yeah, if you don't know what Mega Man is by now,
well, apparently they're working on a movie. I saw that I don't think is going to be very good, but
they said it was going to be like live action.
Yeah, live action Mega Man movie. Come on,
is it like Mega Man himself's like a cartoon and everything else is live action?
I don't know. Like I don't know much about it, and that's what I assumed was like. I don't know if Mega Man is going to be like a cartoon. I thought maybe they would try to make it like an actual person with a blue suit. That just sounds ridiculous to me. But then again, evidently they're making a live action Sonic movie as well. So
now that one I do know they're doing like a CG Sonic and like in the real world, because it'd be like really weird if they got like just an actor in a Sonic suit.
Yeah, like it's some like Avatar type thing or something. Yeah. I don't know. A lot of, in my opinion, bad ideas going around these game movies, but who knows? Maybe they're going to be pretty good. But yeah, I've been playing some Dragon Quest 11 as well. I got really, really busy this week. However, I had a kind of an open slot up this weekend to kind of just plow through some more of the game. And yeah, I can't really say anything additional that I haven't already said. It's a great game. I'm enjoying it. Occasionally there is a plot point or two that I have an issue with. But eventually we'll get around to talking about that. I guess probably here once I finish the game, but it's a really, really good game. It's worth the money. So if you haven't played it already, I would definitely go out, buy it. It's worth the $60 price tag. So, I would definitely pick it up. But let's move on to our first topic, probably the most exciting topic for me to talk about anyways. or at least that one I have the most opinions on. The new Nintendo Switch for 2019. There's been a lot of speculation about what this might be, but essentially, there was a article that was released from the Wall Street Journal, and they reported that there's going to be, according to suppliers with direct knowledge of a plan that was put into place for a new model of the Nintendo Switch. The only thing that they can confirm is that it's going to use a different type of LCD screen, but it looks like there's also going to be updating possibly the display with like a brighter screen, maybe more thinner, energy efficient. But that's the only thing we know. But it's speculated that it would be holiday season 2019. It hasn't been confirmed, obviously, by Nintendo or anything like that. But a lot of people are going all over the place with their speculations. Some people feel like, well, no, it's just a Switch with, a more robust screen because they've been having issues with them cracking. Other people think, well, no, Nintendo's going to come out with a Switch Mini and it's going to have a better battery life. And other people think like, hey, this is going to be the Switch Pro. So this is going to be like upped specs. So if you have a game that you don't like the fact that it downgrades to 720, or in some cases, like I think I saw somewhere some games 540, like this upgrade, this Switch Pro would be able to play these games at 1080p, even off the dock. I don't know exactly. Obviously, we haven't seen anything confirming one way or the other. But do you have any thoughts on this that you think?
I mean, every time Nintendo announces something new, like when people like hear about like a new 3DS iteration coming, usually they go off the rocker with the speculation with it. Yeah. I don't really think it's going to be that special. I think they're just going to try to address any flaws of the original device. Try to make it lighter, maybe make it smaller. I mean, you can only make it but so much smaller, because you have to remember that the Joy-Cons have to be able to connect to them.
And it has to fit on the dock.
So I'm not so much sure the size of it will change, but yeah. I think they may try to find ways to make it feel lighter. Because the Switch, the Switch isn't really a heavy device per se, but you can always go lighter.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now. Like, I think the only thing that I know for certain this new Switch, if you want to call it that, would definitely have is, like they said here, a new screen. And I think the biggest thing they're going to focus on is the fact that a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but a fair amount of people have stated that they're having an issue with the fact that their screen is cracking. I don't know what these people are doing. Maybe they're taking the Switch out with them like all the time, and that's why they're having an issue. I've never had an issue since, the little while I've had one, but that is definitely the biggest criticism I've seen with people. So I think Nintendo is definitely going to try to address that. So that's the biggest thing I think they're going to do. And then if there is anything at all that's an upgrade, I think it's going to be battery life.
Yeah, I think the battery is the one major thing. I don't know, the screen, it's just as durable as anything else. I think the big difference is that the size of it is, people kind of worry over that a screen that size can easily be scratched, and there's nothing really protecting it besides any cases you buy for it. The 3DS, you could just like shut the device like it's a clamp, and the screen doesn't get harmed from it. Maybe the hinges or something like that, but the screen usually won't get harmed. And the Vita kind of has the potential for the same issues. So I don't know if like the screen, there's some big epidemic with the screen. I saw that stuff when the Switch first came out. People are like, oh, the whole line is faulty, don't go out and buy them. And Nintendo has to come out and take time to say, because people are just overreacting. They're like, we barely have a percentage and defect rate of these devices. So, like, those things you're seeing on videos on YouTube are like very minimal, very small. These are very particular cases that people are having. And I saw the thing like it overheats, and like the device starts melting. I'm like, what area are you in that it is capable of doing that?
Yeah. Are you playing in an oven? Like, what are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, the Switch is a pretty durable device.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not the most durable device ever, but it does take some effort to get it into a defective state physically.
Yeah, I would not compare. Well, and just for the fact, I mean, I'd have this overheating thing or anything like that. Is kind of perplexing to me that people are having that issue. But at least with the screen, like it is more durable when I got it than it looks just from looking at pictures. I imagined like something like a giant iPhone screen, and if you ever had an iPhone, almost everyone has had their screen crack at one point or another if they didn't keep it in like a OtterBox or something like that. But it's definitely more durable, I would say, than on an iPhone screen. It's more durable than I thought. But I mean, obviously, if you're listening to this and the screen on your Switch is cracked, that doesn't mean much to you. But
yeah, now here was something that did have a high defect rate was the left Joy-Con. There was apparently a flaw in the left Joy-Con's design, or like how they built it in the factory, and because of it, sometimes it wouldn't react like it would, or it lose signal all the time with it. And they openly said, "Hey, we acknowledge that the left Joy-Cons are having issues. If you call Nintendo, we'll fix it for you for free.
Yeah,
just got to send it in. That's all you got to do." And they owned up to that, so it kind of tells you that they may be open to like
kind of fixing some of those smaller issues.
Yeah, we're open to that. So, the Switch was just fine, the original. But like I said, things can be improved. I think another factor of if they do announce another Switch would be definitely to get rid of the flaw in the processor that they have that lets pirates get through it.
Oh, yeah.
They would probably address that.
But I don't think they would advertise that feature, huh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they wouldn't openly say that. But, it's kind of, pirates are going to find a way through it eventually. But
yeah, for sure.
But they kind of just opened the door for them with that exploit in the processor.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people speculating that they think that this is going to be the Switch Pro version. And if you're listening to this now, if you listened to a couple episodes ago, we were kind of talking about a new Switch coming out eventually. And I am one of those people that think Nintendo is definitely going to come out with a Switch Pro eventually. I just don't think that 2019 Christmas, I feel like that would be too early. If Nintendo came out with a Switch Pro next Christmas, honestly, I'd be kind of irritated because I just spent $300 on this Switch. You didn't even drop the price. And between the Switch Pro coming out, I just feel like it's way too early for that to happen. Especially with the fact that like you have the PS5 and the new Xbox that's going to be coming out within the next, at least announced the next year or two. I think that if they came out with the Switch Pro this early after the initial launch, I just think that would leave a lot of people feeling like Nintendo's just trying to get money out of them. And I just don't think that Switch Pro would really be, I don't think that would make it through the course of the lifetime. That seems like something you would do after it's been out for 4 or 5 years,
Yeah, and I doubt that any games that come out, like say the Switch Pro does come out and it's like technically hardware wise better than previous, they're not going to release any major game that is not going to be compatible with it. Like I know the new 3DS, they had just a few games like Xenoblade, the port of the first Xenoblade game.
Yeah.
You could only play that on the new 3DS. But pretty much every other major Nintendo title that came out after it, like even the Luigi's Mansion coming out later this year, or the Mario and Luigi remakes, they're all compatible with regular 3DS, and Nintendo's not going to do anything that would alienate the millions among millions of people who just already bought a Switch.
Yeah. The most compelling argument I've seen that I could see maybe is, well, hey, they're not going to do like a a dramatic increase. It would just be like a minor increase, enough to like, for example, certain games that are designed for the mobile version, because it's optimized for the mobile portion. When when you stick it on the dock, for some reason people are getting like frame drops, right? Or sometimes when you take the thing off the dock, ideally the game will play in 720, but some people have noticed that certain games go down to 540. And I think a lot of that just happens to be like people are still getting used to making games for the Switch, even though apparently it's very, very easy. But I mean, the only thing I've seen is maybe if they did like a minor improvement to the specs, so maybe like, like those outlier games wouldn't go down to 540, maybe it would stay at 720. I mean, but like that seems to me more an issue with the game than the actual hardware, because you already see games like Breath of the Wild that have no issues whatsoever, so.
Yeah, like Breath of the Wild does definitely run better on 720p in handheld mode than it does in 1080p in console mode.
Yeah,
I definitely noticed. I mean, they did a couple patches to address that stuff, but when you're still in like very heavy forested areas, let's say, like you do notice though it starts chugging a little bit.
Yeah,
and 720p it doesn't do it as much.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe if they did like a minor improvement to kind of smooth that out a little bit, but not so dramatic to where, you could release a game on the newer Switch that wouldn't be able to play on the old Switch. I don't know. Maybe if they were going to do something, if they just wanted to throw like a slight improvement to kind of really get people excited to, besides, a stronger battery life, maybe.
Yeah. But my comparison, I think, will pretty much be like how the DS was the DS Lite. Like it's lighter, it's the battery life is better, but it's still essentially the same console. Like it won't really tempt people who already own the device to get it, but like newcomers may come and get it.
Yeah.
Unless you really want the lighter load or the better battery, then by all means.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait to see when it's announced what exactly is new about it. But basically, it sounds like we're in agreement. I mean, if Nintendo came out with a new console that was basically like a massively upgraded system, I think a lot of people would feel screwed. And I would probably end up buying it, but I'd be kind of unhappy about it because I'd just be like, well, what do I do with this other Switch that I have? You didn't even drop the price or nothing. So. But we'll have to see. It might just be like people are saying a stronger, more resilient screen, maybe a little brighter, and some other minor fixes. So,
Hey, but it really could be anything. Nintendo does have a tendency to do unexpected things here and there.
Well, I mean, the fact that they did the Nintendo Labo, for all we know, this could end up being like a hat you wear on your head. Or something just wild, because Nintendo does like to experiment. So I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, let's keep going here. We got the author of the Witcher series. He's currently suing the developer, and this is kind of a peculiar case from most lawsuits that you see, right? So he's suing Project Red Gaming Studios for $16 million for royalties. And what's strange about it is he's been working with the team on all the games thus far, making sure it is accurate to his vision of the books. I haven't read the books. I imagine some stuff varies. But from people that have read the books, they say, hey, especially Witcher 3, it does a really, really good job of kind of like working with like the lore of the book and everything like that. But what's interesting about this is, and I can't say this guy's name, I can try, it's Andrzej Sapkowski. I don't know. Andrzej is his first name. Apparently.
Don't expect me to pronounce it correctly.
Yeah. Let's just call him Jeff. Anyways. No, I'm just kidding. So anyways, this author, apparently he's had a bad experience from what I've done with some a little bit of reading that I've seen on this. Is he's had a bad experience with video games in the past. So, for example, he licensed his books to be used in the early 2000s to a mobile game, one of the first mobile games, and it was basically like a text adventure where you had to like, you'd like, this company would text you a description of a room, and then you could text back like, you know, go north or whatever, and then it would text you a new area, and it cost you money for every text. It was like 10 cents a text message, and it was a huge flop. And basically, this author had licensed it to this company, and he received royalties for this, and he felt like he got screwed, right? So when CD Projekt Red came by and said, "Hey, like we want to license your books for a video game," he apparently was just not optimistic at all, and he was just like, "No," he didn't want to do it, and they kept wanting to do it, and he said, "Fine, if you want to do it, I demand money up front. I don't want royalties. I want money up front." And he like insisted on it, right? So CD Projekt Red was like, "Okay." So they paid him like $10,000 to license the Witcher series, and that was a bad deal because you know this is a very successful gaming franchise, and so the author, like CD Projekt Red, has said, "Hey, like it's not. We didn't just give him the 10 grand. We gave him the 10 grand, but he's also been a consultant on each game, so he's received consulting fees, which were not cheap." But even the author himself was quoted recently as saying, "They offered me a percentage of their profits. I said, no, there will be no profit at all. Give me all my money right now, the whole amount. It was stupid. I was stupid enough to leave everything in their hands because I didn't believe in their success. But who could foresee their success? I couldn't." So now he's suing them, wanting $16 million, which would normally sound to be like preposterous because you already agreed to something else. But apparently in Poland, there's a law that states that if you know a contract you signed goes way above expectations, I guess, than what you signed, the company still has to like retroactively like give you more money, right? So if you know you sign something for $2,000 and ends up making the person $1 billion, Polish law says, well, hey, no, you have to come back in. You don't have to give them $1 billion, but you have to give them a larger percentage. So I don't know. This is peculiar. Apparently, the Witcher series is worth $2 billion. So I don't know. This whole thing is just baffling to me in so many ways because I can understand like you kind of got screwed, but at the same time, like you freely admit that like you got screwed and you created the situation. But I don't know. Eric, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, that's kind of a silly law, to be honest, but I won't pretend to know how the Polish government works, or how they do due process with laws or anything. But I mean, isn't he making like more revenue just from more book sales alone?
See, that's what some people have brought up, but he has argued back that it's his biggest fear that there are people all around the world think his books are written after the game was made. Like the game was the initial creative project, and then he was like some author they hired to write the books. And he fears that people don't realize that no, he wrote these books like long before this video game series ever existed. Which
I mean, there's some people who didn't know that the Titanic was based off an actual event. They thought it was just a movie. You know, I don't know how serious you can take that. I mean, I think like most level-minded people know that the series is based off a novel series made by him.
Sure. Well, and even if you did not know that, if you ended up buying the books, I think you would learn that fairly soon, right? You know, I think your initial point, I wholeheartedly agree with. I'm pretty sure that he has sold way more books than he would have if this game had not been made, right? If the Witcher series had never been made and this was just some book series out there, I feel like there would have been less books sold than now. I mean, they're making a Netflix series out of this. Pretty sure they weren't making this idea wasn't in anyone's mind before this video game series, I would imagine.
And he's getting a percentage cut off the Netflix series, right?
I would assume.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess $16 million, it could be, it's not like he's asking for $400 million or anything crazy. if I was CD Projekt Red, I would just be like, all right, yeah, you kind of got screwed, but we didn't try to screw you. We tried to warn you. You didn't believe in us, but whatever. Please work on Witcher 4 for us, and we'll pay you $16 million.
It's not that I necessarily disagree that he should get something a little more out of it, but from what I hear, he's been kind of a prick about it.
Yeah, that's the other thing. A lot of fans of the video game series have kind of been offended, basically, the way he's portrayed video games in interviews, given, he's worked on the games as far as getting the lore correct and everything. So in interviews, people have asked him about the game series because it's like asking George R. R. Martin, like in an interview about George R. R. Martin, like if he were to get upset that people ask him stuff about the TV series, even though he wrote the books, like it's going to happen, right? So people ask him like, "Oh, do you play video games or like anything like that?" And he's said things like, "No, I only hang out with intelligent people," or something like that. And it's like, what are you trying to say? Apparently he's very bitter about how successful it's been in the video game.
Well, that's just the stigma that's still there with the like, how like comic books back then had a huge stigma. They're like, it's only for kids. It's stuff that'll, melt your brain. Yeah. It's no good for you. I mean, video games are definitely growing out of that also and being accepted as as an art form, just like movies and books. Mm-hmm. But, we're still living with that stigma of that, like video games are just mindless garbage that you use to just entertain yourself. Not everyone thinks like that, but there are some people who still do. And these particular individuals are older men.
Yeah. So
that mindset still may be there.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is an odd question, I think, to ask, like you pointed out, like given his age, like, do you play video games? I mean, I know there's people that are his age that do, but, and I don't know how old he is, but I know these books have been out for, I think, since the mid 90s, I think. So I imagine he's in his 50s or 60s, I would assume. So, but yeah, that is an odd question to ask. Now, apparently he's come out since some of those other interviews, and he's kind of lightened his mood a little bit because a lot of people got upset, and he said, well, no, like they did a very good job with the series. It's very well done and stuff like that. But no, I don't play video games. So he's learning, but it sounds like to me, like he's just a little bitter about this decision he made. He even admitted it in this quote. He said, it was stupid. I was stupid. I didn't believe in their success. I should have, or something like that. So
don't bite the hand that's willing to feed you.
Yeah. I mean, they've been paying him consulting fees. He's going to get a piece of the Netflix series. I mean, I think he's going to be a very wealthy man. I mean, so.
Yeah. Imagine if he wrote a new book right now. I don't know if he's still writing Witcher books or not, but imagine like the next one that comes out. So many more people are going to buy it than the previous books, guaranteed, just because the gaming series was so successful. People want more Geralt.
And I think that's a very good point. I think that if we're going to revisit him maybe 5 or 6 years from now, I think his tune's going to dramatically change. I saw an interview with George R. R. Martin where he said that with Game of Thrones, he used to be kind of bitter like this as well towards the show. But after I think like the second season and some of these royalty checks started coming in, once he said HBO dumped a dump truck full of money at his doorstep, all of a sudden he was just like, oh well, it's not that bad. Like they're doing a pretty good job. Like I guess getting that money will probably change his tune. So
yeah, maybe money does talk.
Yeah, for sure. Even in Poland. So but yeah, very, very interesting. I thought that given he had been working on the games, like as a consultant, I thought he was happy-go-lucky with these games, but it's apparently not.
Well, I think it might be the aftermath of the third Witcher game, because the first 2 Witcher games were not bad games at all, and they were good games. But they didn't meet the level of success the third game did.
Yeah, the third one's been kind of preposterous. in a good way.
So he was probably happy with his consulting fees in the first two games compared to the sales numbers. But like the Witcher 3 is just like, I mean, it's the amount of success it had. It was just unreal.
Yeah. So anyways, totally agree with that. And I'm interested to see if he actually gets this money. I'm pretty sure CD Projekt Red will just be like, whatever, all you want is $16 million. You could have asked for so much more, just like his initial contract. But I'm interested to see what he gets.
Guess maybe even he knows not to not push it.
Yeah. But anyways, moving on, we have a recent Harry Potter, looks like an open world RPG leak. Essentially, there was some screenshots and gameplay footage that was leaked from, I think, a test group. It was basically Warner Brothers, or who, I think it was Warner Brothers, right?
Yeah, Warner Brothers owns the rights to Harry Potter.
Yeah, apparently they were having some like game footage that they're showing some test groups to see what people liked, and somebody recorded it, and it looks really, really good. And it like
looks really good.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, that's the biggest thing that has gotten people excited about this, is the fact that like, no, this isn't some like hoax. This looks too good to be like some like guy who made this like in his basement or something, right? And the fact that like any footage of this leak has been like, Warner Brothers is taking action to get it removed off YouTube. So that gives more credence to this game. But some people are speculating that this is going to be a PS5 game. I don't know about that, but it does look really, really good. And it looks like you can make your own character, which is pretty cool. So you're not going to play as Harry Potter. It's been kind of rumored that this is going to be more akin to kind of like what Knights of the Old Republic did in the Star Wars franchise, and that like this is going back in time, back to a time when, you know, the characters that we all know and love were not born yet. And
yeah, apparently this is supposed to be like even before like the whole Voldemort thing.
Yeah, so that way they kind of have freedom to make whatever kind of experience they want. So essentially you're going to get to run around in that wizard world, right? You're going to get to go to the Hogwarts and attend class and build craft magic and learn magic and do all sorts of crazy stuff. But what do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I hear it's open world, and I saw the footage, and I was really fascinated by the presentation of it. I mean, everything about it sounds right. I mean, I'm kind of surprised like a game like this hasn't already come out. They've made like games like based off the movies, like movie tie-in games, like the stuff you usually see. But this looks like the first like real like legit, we want you to be in the Harry Potter world type of deal. And as someone who's actually only recently seen the movies, I actually did really like them. The one thing I do regret about them though is I think it's a series that I would have enjoyed a lot more when I was younger. I feel like I was just linked to the game on that. Yeah. But I think like as a crafted movies, I think they were really well done, and they linked together with each other very well. And they kept like the nice and suspenseful the whole way through. So I did enjoy the series, and I would be interested to see how it works in the open world type setting. I was kind of thinking that the game would be similar to the Lord of the Rings games they made that are like the open world Mordor, and you do like missions around the place, or
a little more linear in structure.
Yeah, I think there might be like if I had to guess, it might be like an open world like game, but it does have like a linear mission structure, but you can like fall off the beaten path if you want. Kind of similar to like Knights of the Old Republic, like you were talking about.
Yeah. Did you ever read the books?
Never read the books. Only seen the movies.
Okay. Yeah, as a kid, I got into the book series for a while. I think I followed them as they kept coming out. So I bought I got all the way up to the fourth book when that came out, and then after that, I kind of fell off the ship. I didn't read the rest of them because they just kept getting so long, and I felt like for no reason. But apparently I missed out a lot, because apparently they were really good after that too. But from the footage that I've seen, I think the biggest thing that I walked away with, and I think this is the same thing you were saying, is that in the past, Harry Potter games were not known for quality, right? Usually, if it was a Harry Potter game, it was probably like average to just not a good game. Apparently, that Quidditch game that came out, which I missed, was decent. But other than that, like these games have not been known to be well made games. And when you look at this footage, it seems like the tide is turning. This actually seems like there's a fair amount of money put into this, a fair amount of effort. It looks like there's a lot of fan love put into this, a lot of nuanced pieces of this world that you'll know from watching the movies, reading the books that you can find, and that gives me some excitement to think like this could be a really cool experience. Because honestly, like what's fascinating me about this entire series is the world that that J.K. Rowling created. Right, it's just fascinating. I have newspapers with talking people and people walking through walls, and there's ghosts walking around, and there's all these crazy beasts that you have to try to watch out for. I mean, it seems like a really crazy world to be go and explore. So I'm with you, man. I can't believe this was not done before.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about the world is that it's so crazy and like out there that you could really do anything in that game. I really don't think there's like any real limits that you could do for that world. I think that's what's one of the greater things about it. But I'm glad that they're treating IPs with a lot more respect today than they used to. And I think it started all with like Batman Arkham Asylum, because like there were so many terrible Batman games before that game came out. But then like after that came out, like everyone's thinking to themselves, wow, we really are sitting on a gold mine and we're not treating it like seriously. Then we get like the Lord of the Rings, Shadow of Mordor games that are really good. I mean, the second game it was microtransaction hell, but it was good for what you could do.
Yeah.
And you got the new Spider-Man that came out. That's really good. I mean, these like movie / book tie-ins, like video games, could have a ton of potential. You just need the right company to treat it with the respect it deserves.
Yeah, it's almost like they didn't really understand that. Okay, if this is a huge blockbuster hit, that means people like this. We should probably put effort into this other medium, right? It seemed almost like before where, okay, here's this blockbuster movie and we're just going to try to cash grab and create low budget games because we know people are going to buy them. Like now it seems like people are like realizing like, oh, if we put a lot of effort into this, it could actually sell more, or we could make as much money as the movies, right? Or maybe not quite as much, but it could be comparable. So I agree with you, man. It's cool that they're actually starting to pay some of these franchises the respect they deserve, honestly.
Yeah, they still make shovelware games for these IPs today, but you do get your occasional very well made, well developed title that's on the console.
Yeah. Since you actually, because I mean, I saw a little bit of the footage, a very small amount, but I had to go and I couldn't see the rest of it. And then from what I've seen now is just screenshots. Do you think there's any credence to the idea that people are saying this is going to be on the PS5?
I mean, it could potentially. It's the problem is that the footage is taken from someone's phone.
Cell phone.
Yeah. So it's really hard to tell the quality. You can tell like the general quality of it is really nice. Like they have they showed a scene where you're walking into like the main gathering room of Hogwarts, and like the lighting just looked it looked pretty insane. Like the lighting in the room made it looked just like the movie. And but something like that is possible to do theoretically, like on the PS4 console. So I don't know if it's something that would require a PS5 yet. I think we would need to see like an actual HD quality trailer of it to determine that.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I mean, it could just be a late in the PS4 lifespan too. So the only other thing that might kind of disappoint me with this is if it ends up being like an online game, I would be disappointed.
I mean, if they got pre-alpha footage this early, then I would assume that PS4, Xbox One will probably be at least an option that it will be on there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, do you think there's any credence that could be an online game?
Don't know. You do you do have a create your own character type of deal.
Yeah.
So it is possible. But I don't know if you could truly like take in the world if you had like other people around you. I know I say that as someone who plays Final Fantasy 14, but if it's like if it's like meant to be like a single player game and you just have like online features of other people running around, then it could, it could do something like that. But maybe if it's like optional, you can either play in single player or maybe you can, join with someone else, maybe something like the Dark Souls in a way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I will need to see how the game is actually structured to make a good assessment on that.
Sure, for sure. I'm expecting to see some more footage of this. Probably, I'm thinking we'll see something at E3. I mean, obviously we can't know, but E3 next year.
I do think E3 will probably be when.
Yeah, because I mean, you're already seeing footage that's like this well put together. Like, I mean, come on, and it's already been leaked. People are going to be wanting to know about it. I'm sure they'll make an announcement next year.
The footage wasn't like just showing off like random thing or like just like showing off like random things. Like it was built and edited to be like a trailer.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm excited. I never thought I would be excited about a Harry Potter game because they've always been pretty mediocre, but this looks really, really cool. A really cool idea. So I'm glad they're doing this.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing what they do with it.
Cool. Let's move on to Dude McGuy. He has a question for us. He says, first off, he says, "Hey guys, another fun podcast. I have a potential question/topic. What game or JRPG have you had the biggest change of opinion on over the years? Perhaps a game you hated at first, but then later you learned to appreciate it. And has the reverse ever happened? A game you really enjoyed, but now you're less fond of it. And what was it about those games that changed your opinion?"
Am I going first on this?
Sure.
Okay. I think the one that I don't think I did something like truly hate or anything like that, but one I wasn't too fond of first, and I think it's attributing to the fact that I was much younger and couldn't completely understand or grasp it, was anything made by Matsuno, really. Final Fantasy Tactics, Tactics Ogre, Vagrant Story, those type of games. Like they had a much more Western theme to them, and like younger me, of course, like the JRPG side of things more, and it was a little harder to get into. I enjoyed it in some aspects because it was still ultimately Final Fantasy, so but it felt a little hard for me to take in. But over the years, especially when I got older, like I think those are like the best games of the era now, and I'm just like begging for Matsuno to come back and like do like make any kind of game again. Like I know I've been talking with a few people, and like my dream game from him is like a Dark Souls game with a Vagrant Story type setting and artwork.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be real cool.
Man, that would be just amazing. And I just want like anything from him to come out. Like Final Fantasy 12, he initially was in the lead of, and that's definitely, I think, one of the better Final Fantasies.
Yeah, for sure.
Now for one that I used to really like and it deteriorated over the years, I could probably safely say the Tales series.
Like the whole series?
Not the whole. I still really like Tales of the Abyss and Tales of Vesperia. Yeah. And I did like Berseria to an extent. Mm-hmm. But man, like my
fatigue.
Not necessarily fatigue, but like going overly anime on something
Mhm.
And I feel like the Tales series still does that pretty badly nowadays.
Yeah.
Now, Berseria was kind of like a breath of fresh air because it gave you like a unique perspective of like you're not necessarily the good guys, but you're not the bad guys either, type of deal.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I haven't played every Tales game, but I do feel like Berseria was a step in the right direction in terms of story. I understand it may have not been the best one in the series, but it was better than the previous one, right? So,
yeah, I mean, I still have a fondness for Abyss and Vesperia, like I said, but I don't know. I just don't look forward to those games like I used to.
Yeah. Well, it's even me. I haven't played all the games, but I kind of feel like you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean that's a good way to put it. Like you know what you're getting out of these games now. They kind of feel predictable sometimes.
Yeah, and not in the same way. Like you know what you're getting with Dragon Quest, right? I guess there is a difference.
Well, I think the big difference is Dragon Quest doesn't come out. They don't come out with a new Dragon Quest main title every year.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you kind of in a way enjoy the same thing for something you don't get that much.
Mm-hmm.
But Tales series, they kind of feed you one every year. I think they took a back seat this year to get like the next like real PS4 Tales title out because Berseria was still ultimately a port of the PS3 version.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think what game or JRPG have I had the biggest change of opinion on over the years. So particularly a one that I hated at first, but then later I learned to appreciate. I can give a very, very obvious example. So as a kid growing up, and honestly, most of my teenage years, I did not like Chrono Trigger. Yeah, the first time I played it was I played the one that came out on the PlayStation. And I mean, I didn't hate it. I just thought it was like a mediocre game. I didn't play it to the end. I think it was just so different from Final Fantasy, and I knew it was a Square game that like it just was like I was like I don't like this. Like it's too different. And I remember thinking the battle system was cool. I liked the artwork and stuff, but I didn't like that the main character didn't speak. I didn't like the general presentation of it. I felt like this should have been more Final Fantasy-esque than it was. And that's kind of how I was back then with my Square games. This just wasn't up to tier, I thought. But later down the road, when I was in my early 20s, I ended up playing the game again on an emulator. And I went through the whole game and I was like, wow, I love this game. It's now one of my favorite games. So I don't know what I was thinking back in the day because it's hard for me to wrap my mind around not liking this game because I don't know how anyone could not like this game. It's just so well done, but maybe I was just so close-minded then. I don't know. But yeah, I definitely had a complete change of opinion about that game. One that I really enjoyed when I was younger, but now I'm less fond of it. I mean, I could say Final Fantasy VIII, for example. When I was a kid, I thought that was like a masterpiece from a narrative standpoint. And recently I replayed it like maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And I was kind of baffled by all these plot points that I forgot about. And not just like the famous orphanage scene, like other scenes that felt like this is just oddly placed, like the investors that live in the basement of the garden. Apparently they've been there the whole time, but no one knew they were there. It's just like, it was just, it made me not like the game as much as when I was younger. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I still like the story despite its flaws or whatnot. Yeah. But I would agree that I probably appreciated 8 a lot more than I do today. But yeah. I mean, besides the junctioning system, which we can all agree is a pretty messy system, and the whole enemies level with you is not really that great either. But I mean, when that game shined, it really did shine, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's when I think about that game now, it's hard. It's like I have mixed feelings on it because I feel like there were so many like great parts of that game where I just feel like, man, this is a classic. This was a great scene. This is a great sequence of events. This was really well done. Basically anything with Laguna I thought was great. But then, you get to those really low points in the game that just really just frustrate me. So definitely that would be one for sure. Trying to think what about so in particular he says what about it, those games that changed your opinion. Like I said with Final Fantasy VIII, it was just those plot points that didn't really match up.
We're older, we're more cynical.
I think with Chrono Trigger, I think when I originally played it, like I wasn't really into. I just like to play games for like enjoyment factor, and there's plenty of that in Chrono Trigger. But later, like when I was in high school and stuff, I got really into like using like RPG Maker and stuff like that, and that kind of got me into like the mindset of like analyzing games through like a more creative lens, like what's quality game design. And so I think when I went back and played Chrono Trigger again, I was able to recognize like some like very interesting game elements. The fact that the way you act in the game early on will kind of affect things to a certain degree later in the game, and just how smooth the battle system was for the time, and just aspects of that made me really appreciate it a lot more. So
yeah, and then there's like a series like Kingdom Hearts. Like I still enjoy Kingdom. I still really enjoy Kingdom Hearts today. I really do. But like the difference between like the younger me and the older me is like it's so hard to not notice some writing and consistency issues that the series has, or it's pretty famous for now. Like I've always considered, I mean, people have heard me say it on here plenty of times, but I always considered the story like a beautiful mess. Like it's got like great characters that you get like emotionally tied to, and you enjoy some. Like even though Sora is like one of the biggest dorks ever, like you still you still enjoy having him as the main character type of deal. But
yeah, I thought about bringing up Kingdom Hearts. I mean, I haven't played all the games, but I don't know if I've like learned to appreciate the game more now. I think it's more that like I still have the criticisms for Kingdom Hearts. It's just like my original criticism of this being childish is no longer an issue for me. But now I have new criticisms that I didn't have before, right? With like kind of like you said, some of the dialogue, some of the way the scenes are directed, or stuff like that kind of gets at me a little bit. So it was that's kind of why I chose not to pick that one. But it's definitely a contender for sure though, because there's a lot of good stuff about it. So
yeah, the good stuff definitely outweighs the negative stuff I have about it. I mean, there's some writing issues for sure, but at the end of the day, we all know what we truly enjoy it for.
Yeah, for sure. So very, very cool. I think we actually had one topic that I skipped over. I forgot to bring up, but I brought it up at the beginning of the podcast here. But Xenoblade Chronicles developer Monolith Soft is hiring for a new RPG project. I'm reading this off Nintendo Life. There's an article there talking about this, but basically Monolith Soft, they've started recruiting, or they're actively recruiting and urgently, it uses the word urgently, recruiting for experienced staff and action game development. And the team has grown in size in just a few months later in August. I'm quoting from this article here. But so a lot of people are pretty much saying like, hey, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, it was extremely, extremely successful. Torn of the Golden Country, that DLC was extremely successful. There's no reason they'd be starting a new IP now. This has got to be Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And it probably is Xenoblade Chronicles 3, to be honest.
Probably.
I'm just kind of curious to see what direction they go in, because me personally, I really, really enjoyed the first one, and I was kind of disappointed to see, or I was disappointed after finishing that one. I don't know, the direction the second one went in, right? Technically it's a third one, but the fact that the main character and the main cast are so young, the more anime-ish
Yeah, I was not a fan of the art direction either.
Yeah, it's just it wasn't my cup of tea, but I am very, very tempted. I do want to dive into this game and kind of give my own take on it because it looks like it's really well made. Aside from those things, I know the initial version of the game had some issues with how you could get weapons or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember the specific issue.
It's a gotcha system with the blades.
Yeah, so apparently they've kind of evened that out a little bit, so it feels a little less tedious and a little more fair. But
yeah, they did some major updates since I've last played it. I have mixed feelings for Xenoblade 2. I thought the story was pretty all right, and the world was, I mean, it was a good looking world, even though I didn't care for the art direction of the characters. And but like I said, I did not like the art direction at all, and it felt really anime-ish compared to the first game. It's like really night and day how the two, like if you compare the two and how they are. But I do commend them though for making a whole deal, like a DLC that's pretty much the length of a standard RPG, which is pretty insane.
Well, I saw people are saying it's like 20, maybe 25 hours. And I was thinking about that today, like, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is like an 80-hour RPG. What if I just played the DLC?
Yeah. I think the biggest issue I had with that game was its gameplay battle system. And it's like really poorly made maps and and level design of the maps. I mean, I couldn't stand them. Like I got to like near the end of the game and like just so many systems are in place. You're still getting tutorials up to like near the last chapters of the game. I'm like, how much more can you throw at me? This is just getting over the top ridiculous. And then they have the things where you have to like know certain landmark abilities so you can get past something. And I never knew this is something I had to take care of. So I had to go back and grind or find out ways to do that so I could just progress. I mean, it was just getting the best of me. And like, there's just one area where I was like, man, I had it. I'm done with this. I mean, the story was pretty decent, but it's not so great that I'm willing to deal with all this crap.
Yeah. It sounds like a very tedious game. I kind of wonder with a lot of the tutorials going out through almost the end game sequence, if maybe they weren't trying to create like a really, and obviously I haven't played it, so I'm just speculating here, but maybe they weren't trying to create a super complicated system, more so just trying to keep things fresh by introducing new elements. I don't know, but I mean, at the end of the day, it sounds like that didn't really work. It sounds like a lot of people just got really fatigued with it, you know?
I think if they make Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I think they should take a lot of criticism of the battle system they had to. If they find a way to simplify it, the battle system, without throwing all these different things at you to keep up with, you know, it could be a good system. But it made itself too complex for its own good. If they do that, make do better level terrain. And I know this is a preference thing because I know some people like the art design of Xenoblade 2, so it's, you know, it's really down to opinion. But I do wish they get like the original artist and art directors for the first game back.
Yeah. I mean, I can see them going two routes. I can see them saying, just like you said, okay, let's be smart about this. Let's take the criticisms that came from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and let's kind of I don't want to say dumb it down, but kind of water it down a little bit to where it's not so over the top in complexity. Let's, you know, change the art style just a little bit. Let's tweak it just a little bit. And I think it'll really be something that everyone can praise, right? But there's the other part of me that says, well, this game has sold so well on the Switch that somebody at Monolithsoft is sitting there thinking like, we would be fools not to do the exact same thing. Or I could see them doubling down on it, making it even more complicated or even more anime-ish, right? Thinking this will make us even more money. So I could see them going either of those two routes on Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So
yeah, I just don't want to see the character designs just be like pure fan service. Just
yeah, but it's so weird that it's fan service given these kids are like 12. and their appearance, you know?
Yeah, I think Rex is like 14, but if you told me that character was like 9 to 10 years old, I'd believe it.
Yeah. So it's a little weird, but I am excited to hear more about this game whenever it's announced. So I think it's going to be a big deal for sure. But anyways, let's see. We still decent time. We got a few comments. Let's just read those real quick. Leanne B, she says, "Oh my God, I love your guys' timing. I just got on YouTube to see if there are any new podcasts I can listen to before clocking in. And boom, you guys deliver. I usually comment after listening to the podcast, but I just wanted to say thank you for being consistent on good quality. You guys are quickly becoming one of my favorite podcasts." Thank you. Really appreciate that. That's awesome. Glad that you all are enjoying it. Let's see here. We got Eder C's Pieces, I think is how you say it. He says, "Great podcast, guys. I really enjoy how you two have different takes on everything. Usually one of you two will have my take." And that's a very interesting point that you bring up, because I think when we first started this podcast, we were worried that we agreed too often. So I'm glad to know that people are noticing that we disagree more often, you know?
Yeah. Maybe I'll change my opinion once in a while just to rile you up.
Yeah. He says for Final Fantasy 15, they could have included Insomnia, full of side quests and such, and kept the game open world with zero changes to the overall storyline. The game already provided a method to visit old areas in the game that should be blocked off because those areas no longer are accessible later in the story. You visit in your memory using Umbra. No reason Insomnia could not be visited via open world in a similar flashback method. The fact that it was omitted because they ran out of time, there's no positive reason for it. I think this was a really interesting idea that I never thought of, is like, hey, Umbra takes you back in time. Spoiler alert, sorry guys. But Umbra takes you back in time and you can kind of do all these different things in the game. Why can you not go back in time further and kind of experience Insomnia? You know?
I don't think there's a thing Umbra can do make that story better. The whole purpose, the purpose of Insomnia should have been to establish the characters, the relationship between Noctis and his father, and let you know what is at stake when you go out in your adventure.
Yeah.
That's the main purpose of it. If you do not establish that at the beginning, it's like, might as well not have Insomnia.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it would be cool if they did some kind of update where Umbra could take you back to kind of experience those things. But at the same time, as far as like the storytelling goes, like if you get to experience those things at the end of the game, that's not as rewarding as if you had experienced it at the beginning of the game, at least for me. But I mean, it would be better than nothing, which is what we currently have. So that is a good point for sure. Cerez Cypher, he says, Hat mentioned how VR and RPG could let you really take in the environment and look around at all sorts of little details. That's something I would enjoy. I have a Rift headset, and I find that just being able to look around the VR world naturally by turning or moving your head is really natural and a step up from moving the view in a screen-based game with a right analog stick. I thought of a couple other things that would be a good use of VR in an RPG. Persona social link scenes could be extra impactful as first-person VR experiences. Maybe some of the options that you could choose that are actions are chosen by performing the action. And a lot of the VR headsets have microphones on them, so you could have the option to choose the dialogue options by reading aloud the text of it. Another thing that would be great if the system for establishing boundaries for the wireless Oculus Quest works well. If you have a big backyard, or maybe move cars out of your garage and use the space, you could set up quite a large play area to move around in. And then imagine that you're playing something like Xenoblade. You've been exploring in first person. This part you probably still move around with an analog stick to go long distances. And then you aggro a monster, and then the game defines battle area within the VR world that's centered on your current position and no larger than your configured boundaries. And you no longer move around with the stick, but by walking around. The battle area with the VR world would be static for that encounter. So if you actually walk outside, if that's how you escape from battle, or that's how you escape from battle. If you want to go target the enemy's back, you're actually walking around it. Maybe each of your arts is activated by particular hand motions. Maybe some of the arts that had more complex attack animations have you mimic this series of attacks while it's executing, and it's stronger the more accurately you perform it. I think something like this could be a lot of fun and worth the hassle of wearing the headset. He goes on a little bit further there. But I'm just going to stop here and because I have a comment to make. I think this is a really cool idea. I think if they could do that in the future, I'm not sure if we're quite there yet. But if they did do this, I'm telling you, the first thing to go is 90-hour RPGs. Because if I actually have to like run around my yard and like walk behind enemies and like swing a sword and stuff like that, bro, I'm getting way too worn out. Like there's something to be had or said about just sitting on the couch and relaxing, you know? If I'm outside and I got to run around, like I'm only going to do that for like 30 minutes. I'm not going to do that for 6 hours, right? So
I think people would complain if the sessions took too long. If you make something like that, it has to be something that's like a short session type of deal. Like you can get a mission done within a relative time. So, you know, you're not spending hours among hours doing one thing. They'll probably throw quick missions at you to do, and you can like just stop them at your own will.
Yeah. And so anyways, I mean, it would be cool. I'm sure they could kind of work around some issues like that, but I think that would be the biggest obstacle for me. He does bring up like turn-based combat. You could bring up like a bird's eye view of the tactical battlefield and positioning characters in the battlefield, selecting targets with their hand controllers would feel good.
Which is why I argue again, like, would that look better in VR or AR?
Or augmented reality, where you can still see your surroundings, but it can warp like it can show it on your desk or something like that, right?
So. Yeah, so you're not looking through like this VR headset where you have to like constantly be turning your head. You can actually just physically move around your desk if you wanted to, or like just move your head, and like you're not getting sick from it. You're able to see like the angles that you wish to see it at. Like I said again, like imagine like Final Fantasy Tactics, the board of it was like just like on your desk, and you were just like playing it and able to angle it like on the desk. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I think that would be a different experience though, for sure, than the immersion that you would have from being in full VR. But I don't think that immersion that people are envisioning, like the kind of like for you all out there that have watched Johnny Quest growing up, like Johnny Quest or like the Matrix or something like that, where like you plug yourself in and it's like you're completely immersed. Like, dude, I think like people have ideas of VR eventually being that, and like that's not happening for.
Are you talking about the new Adventures of Johnny Quest?
I haven't watched I haven't watched a new one. Like I watched.
This was in the 90s. Like,
then that's the one I watched. Yeah.
That's what it was called. I do remember it. The most interesting episodes of that show were definitely the VR ones.
Yeah, and that's always what I think about when I think of VR. I'm like, dude, that would be sweet. But maybe when I'm like 80, things will have advanced that far. I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
But anyways, BioPhoenix. He says a time spinner sounds and looks awesome. Also, I love the DS Castlevania, so I'd probably enjoy it when I get to it. It does have a little bit more comment, but I'll stop there. Did you keep playing that game?
Yeah, I beat it. It's really not hard to 100% that game. It's if you 100% everything, it's about a 15 to 17 hour game.
Nice. That's my style. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me getting older, I guess. He goes on to say, I'm not really bummed out about not having the PSX this year, considering they already told us a ton of stuff that's coming in 2019, such as Ghost of Tsushima, Tsushima, I think it's pronounced right.
The new From Software game?
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Tsushima, yeah. Last of Us 2, Days Gone, Death Stranded, and a bunch of others, so no real shortage. As for a Vita 2 being like a Switch, I can see them doing that since Sony does copy Nintendo when they do something successful. But if that's the case, it's interesting since having a handheld that can also... he says, when they do something successful because that's the case. I'm interested since having a handheld that can also play on the TV is a great concept. I think Dark Souls VR would be insane, but awesome if done right. But AR is a cool concept that I don't see too often. Last I remember, 3DS did it pretty well. I responded back to that and I told him, well, I guess the 3DS technically was augmented reality, but that was like a real like low budget for a version. Well, not low budget, just like not as cool as it could be. Anyways, but yeah, he kind of laughed and he was like, "Oh yeah," but it was cool when it came out. And then we have we already read Dude McGuy's questions, so all around really good questions. Really appreciate you all commenting on here, and please continue to comment on our YouTube videos. It gives us something to kind of go over and talk about on these podcasts. And we also have an audio only version, so there'll be a link in the description of this podcast episode. And next week we'll be back with full video, but we appreciate you all listening. Eric, you got any final comments?
No, play more Dragon Quest 11.
I knew you were going to say that. But anyways, appreciate y'all. Catch y'all next week.
All right, see you guys.